Good afternoon. It's a privilege for me to be here today and to have the opportunity to tell you our story. I have been in the paper industry for 20 years before I started this company. My employers had been very good to me and made corporate life very rewarding. In 1995, my boss sent me to a business school where the case study was the paper mill I worked for. The conclusion of this study was that because of high labor costs, high power costs, the environment is simply not conducive for our mill to continue operating. In Michael Porter's terms, the Philippines has no competitive advantage in paper manufacturing. Our professor said, why not buy the paper? Why do you have to make it if you're not efficient? So this opened my eyes to the opportunity of starting a converting business where you bring in finished paper and repackage them depending on your market's requirements. This is SCPA's business model. This model also suited the geographic features of our country. With our many islands, logistics is quite challenging. Bringing in finished goods, which is what traders usually do, makes products expensive and uncompetitive. This is why today you will find we have 23 sales and distribution offices nationwide, 7 of which has its own converting facilities. Meaning, raw paper, raw materials, isn't just shipped to Manila. We ship it to Cebu to supply the Visayas. We ship it to Davao and Cagayan de Oro to serve Mindanao. But I'm getting ahead of my story. At age 45, I decided to retire from the corporate world and start a small business, a retirement business that can just get me going. I was inspired by the thought of being able to give back to my country 20 jobs for 20 Filipinos. I told myself, if I am able to do that, then I will consider myself successful. I think having this kind of motivation beyond personal gain is important for us entrepreneurs. When the tough gets going, and in business it really does, this kind of non-monetary inspiration can be what revives our spirit to continue to be bullish and to persevere. Part of what I believe to be the reason why our business took off was that we saw a real consumer need that we can solve. And it came from a very personal place, my wife. At the time we entered the supermarkets 20 years ago, most of the products on the aisles were chemically laden, recycled tissue paper at very high prices. Balikbayans would bring home tissue from abroad when they came home to visit because the products here were just so bad. My wife also had issues with this because she had very sensitive skin, which would easily get irritated by the poor, thin quality of tissue paper. My experience in the paper industry equipped me with the knowledge that what consumers needed was 100% virgin pulp. Not very popular with some sectors, but it is what is needed to have stronger fibers, because the stronger fibers do not become lint. They don't become himulmol that detaches from the sheet of paper. We also sourced raw materials that had no artificial whiteners, no elemental chlorine, because these are banned in other countries. Our packaging when we first entered the market was very plain, but it talked about these things like a mini billboard. It captured the Filipinos' hearts. I believe we made them realize that they can demand more from their tissue products. It needed to be hygienic, not just soft and cheap. We gave them value in terms of quality and price. We've been able to sustain our double-digit sales growth through constant innovation and product improvements. We follow and we study our customers. Example, we were the first to introduce tissue coreless in the Philippines. It's a tissue product that had no core because we saw that Most women would just remove the core and put the tissue in their bags. So why ask them to pay for the core? We removed it and was able to make a product cheaper for them. One of the international trade magazines in our industry, Tissue World, highlighted our company because of this product. They were so amazed that we can use toilet paper without a core. And every time they see this in the shelves in the Filipino supermarkets, they are so amazed that we are using something so unique. Another innovation we introduced was Sanitary Eco Layers, which is essentially putting a layer of recycled paper in between two sheets of virgin pulp. It addressed the concern of some sectors to use recycled fibers without compromising quality by using virgin fibers where there was actual skin contact. We constantly attend the trade shows abroad to see new machines and study other markets, to see where and how we can improve our products. In 2007, as our capacity was reaching its limit, we bought our first really modern machine. The machine would improve capacity and introduce lamination in our products to make it better. A year later, one of our major multinational competitors decided to leave the Philippine market. Had we not invested in that new machine, we would have missed out the chance to gain market share. We were poised and ready with better capacity, better products to fill the void left by this competitor. As we move beyond tissue paper products and develop new items such as wet wipes and starch-based cutleries that disintegrate over a period of time, we maintained our philosophy of bringing in innovative and high-quality products. You always ask, how can we give value and not just copy our competitors? Our growth year on year has shown that constantly innovating and improving our products is rewarded by the Filipino customer. We celebrated our company's 20th year last year, October. It has been very rewarding for me that this is no longer a retirement business. We are now responsible for around 2,000 jobs around the country. I think I worked too hard and overexceeded my target of 20 jobs. Seriously, running a business is really not easy. Sometimes when we're starting out, we have the grand illusion about how much easier life would be without a boss who will tell you what to do, for you to clock in at 8 o'clock, and having all sorts of freedom that corporate life will not afford you. This is all true, but the burden we now carry as business owners is much heavier, and the challenges as well, a lot more. I'd like to give an example of some of the difficulties of an entrepreneur, a business person. Our difficult labor laws. When you're starting out, you're not sure if your business will succeed. One way you can remain strong is having the flexibility to reduce operational costs immediately. You'll have to be able to balance complying with labor laws while having the nimbleness required for your business survival when you are in financial distress. Again, not very popular, but really needed. Second would be the management of cash flow. When you're starting out, it's very difficult to get good credit lines. We have had to work very hard to get good credit standing from banks. Today, banks call us to use their money. But back then, no one even let us meet them. Prudence is needed, especially in the early years when making money go around is very difficult. As you'll see in this chart, for us, it was a slow burn before we gained momentum to make significant growths. We didn't even think of declaring dividends because we needed all the capital we had to sustain and grow the business. But like in the parable of the fish and bread, God will bless what you offer to Him and multiply that. The key is using what it is that you have in your hands. What do you have now that you can use to make your business grow? Third would be the reality of dealing with our beloved BIR. The most unsexy part of our businesses that I'm sure we all wish we could just delegate or outsource to someone else. Lately, we have been notified that we are now classified under the Large Taxpayers Bureau. This will probably be one of our toughest challenge. Regardless of how big or how small a business you are, the reality is you'll need some kind of strategy in handling this, because taxes are a given if you want to do business. I share this to get to my most important point. You have to work as if everything depended on you, but we have to pray as if everything depended on God. We worked as diligently as we could, but you know, 3 of our biggest challenges were things that were completely out of our control. We couldn't have foreseen them happening. The first happened just a year after we started operations. We were hit by the Asian financial crisis of 1997. The dollar shot up to 38. Interest rates went up to 40%. Our capital was depleted. As I mentioned in the beginning, it was hard to find credit. But through much prayer and God's help and favor, we were able to recapitalize through bank loans. In December 2012, our main office and production facility in Taguig burned down from a fire that started from a chemical company next to us. The damage was so great, it had us question if we should just close down our company. Thankfully, because of the unique operational setup, other branches were able to supply and support Manila production requirements. Other than the fire, 2 years later, we had the Typhoon Glenda. It surprised us. It flooded our newly built Lipa factory. In both fire and typhoon incidents, we learned the value of having adequate insurance cover. These disasters were mitigated by having a reliable partner like Malayan, who took care of us by paying us quickly so we could restart. For us, small companies, insurance is the last thing we think about. But really, it is very important. It can spell the difference between having no choice but to shut down or the ability to restart again. As a Christian business, our faith is what has sustained us during all the trials we faced. And it is what has kept us from being foolish when we were enjoying success. Everything has been God's grace, His perfect timing, His guidance. This has been our constant theme, and every time I tell our story, whether in interviews with major newspapers or casual meetings, I try to emphasize this. As it says in Proverbs 21:30, there's no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. Today, I have the joy of having my son now running the show. He has been president since 2012, and my days are now largely spent on my apos, a picture of my 5 grandchildren, making my life so joyous and glorious and worth living. I have so much more to share, but this is the time I have for now. Thank you for listening, and I pray for everyone's success. God bless us all.